Alright, so I need to disclose this before we go any further. I fucking love Berserk. It is my favorite thing of all time. Not anime, not manga, not even video game or series. Thing. I absolutely love it. And anything with even the slightest hint of Berserk in it gets me jacked up and excited. I put a lot of hours into Dragon's Dogma when it was on PS3, solely because it had armor sets and locations that were direct references to Berserk. To say this series ruined a lot of other stories for me would be an understatement. So many times I would sit down and try to get into stuff like Attack on Titan or Demon Slayer, just to name two examples, and I would constantly have this thought pop up into my mind. Yeah, it's pretty good. But Berserk did this better. It simply has everything I love in a story. Flawed, complex characters that are still human and feel like real people. Grotesque violence and action that absolutely holds nothing back. Lovecraftian cosmic horror mixed with dark fantasy in a way that meshes together perfectly. And a protagonist with one of the greatest character arcs I've ever seen. No, I'm taking a step further. The greatest character arc I've ever seen. And with all of these elements together, you would think a Berserk anime would be an uncontested masterpiece that would be up there with the legends like Cowboy Bebop or Ghost in the Shell, actual works of art that can be appreciated even by people not that familiar with anime.
Are ya ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
Oh!
You have now been marked with the brand of sacrifice. The lives of those who bear the brand, from the last drop of blood to the last moments of your agonizing death, will feed life to the new child of darkness.
That went south so fast! Ah!
Berserk is the action, horror, dark fantasy manga written and illustrated by Kentaro Miura. It follows a mysterious warrior only known as Guts. Missing his arm and an eye, Guts wanders around the kingdom of Midland, constantly hunted by malevolent demons that try to kill him every single night. He eventually meets up with the small pixie-like elf named Puck, who decides to follow his journey after Guts unintentionally saved his life. There, more details about who Guts is come to the surface, and you find out that he was actually a mercenary working for an army called the Band of the Hawk, which were betrayed and sacrificed to demons known as the God Hand by their leader, a man named Griffith, who became a demon himself after the betrayal. So Guts is on the warpath to kill the God Hand and especially Griffith, absolutely consumed with vengeance and bloodlust. This is just the basic concept because there are already an insane amount of details I haven't mentioned purely for the sake of time and spoilers. If I had to break Berserk down to a single sentence, it would be this. Berserk is a shonen battle series brought into grisly reality. Well, hyper-reality, but you get my point. The manga started in 1989, where manga and anime were a lot more unrestrained in regards to sex and violence, even for something like a shonen series. If you watch the original Dragon Ball anime, not Z, the one before that, you'd be surprised at how many adult jokes and violent murders are in a show supposedly made for kids. Well, kids is a loaded term, because shonen can apply even to older teenagers. Fist of the North Star is considered shonen, but if you read it today, you'd think it was always made for adults. And of course, Berserk was also heavily inspired by that and the works of Go Nagai, the author of things such as Getter Robo and Devilman, which were key series that led to the creation of the seinen genre. Berserk is similar, but it doesn't even pretend to be shonen. It's heavy seinen right from the get-go, but there's an interesting way it builds the story. It wouldn't be too out of the wheelhouse to say that Berserk takes elements from shonen and of all things shoujo manga and mixes them together. As it turns out, Miura is also a fan of shoujo manga. Yeah, the dude that makes stuff like this and this enjoys stuff like this. So Berserk is sort of a sum of all of its inspirations, but mixed together in a way that really feels fresh and original. You have an emphasis on characters and their emotions like you see in a shoujo manga, mixed with fast-paced, high-intensity fight scenes like you see in a shonen. Just drizzle some graphic violence, sex, and mature themes on top, and there you go, that's Berserk. It's a story that, if even slightly restrained, would feel completely different, which is actually something bring up with the later chapters. That the JRPG fighting One Piece pirates was stupid, and that the mermaid lolly is annoying and only exists for Naruto to have a crush on her. Plus, the whole arc didn't even really get that good until Guts killed Cthulhu. nothing I said was fake. Literally all of this happens. In fact, there is a shonen version of Berserk. It's called Demon Slayer, and that... yeah, I'm gonna need to talk about that eventually, but I can already feel the dislikes. Long story short, Demon Slayer would be amazing if Tanjiro wasn't such a bitch and the story actually let him fight, and not stumble around like a retard until his plot bullshit powers makes the bad demon go away. I wasn't kidding when I said it's okay, but Berserk did it better. And the reason I think it's better is simple. The characters and the writing are excellent. Berserk intentionally avoids a lot of the cliches you see in countless other action mangas. You see characters stand around giving a monologue before they fight. This is usually interrupted by somebody rushing in with their sword and hacking a dude in half. Typically that's guts. You have a bad man say something like, "I was just holding back so I can enjoy the fight." Well, anytime this happens, it's before they transform into a literal monster, so you actually kind of believe what they're saying. Plus, Guts isn't trying to be the best or the strongest. The dude just doesn't want to die. Honestly, before he even goes full Black Swordsman, he wasn't exactly Goku. He just really likes to kill people, and is batshit insane after a lifetime of traumatic experiences. Guts simply wants to be left alone, but the rest of the world refuses to do this. He's closed off from other people and is more likely to cut your head off than give you a handshake. If you just passively look at the character, you'll probably just write Guts off as an emo loner swordsman. The kind of guy that would unironically go, "Heh, nothing personnel, kid." And in all fairness, he has more than one moment where he does exactly that, but it works for Guts because the entire story is built around exploring what made him as a person. You follow his entire life, from the day he was born, his time as a child soldier, to him as a grown man hunted by demons. He's given context for every single one of his actions. He's antisocial and aggressive towards others because he's lost so many people he cares about, not even mentioning the times he's been betrayed by the ones he looks up to. His character arc is insanely good. You see so much of what made Guts the man he is during the opening chapters. He doesn't have just one event that ruins his life. The dude has at least 3. Guts is thrown into absolute despair numerous times, and every single time he has to claw his way out and keep moving forward. But it starts to take more and more from him. He goes from being abused by his adoptive father, who blames him for the death of his mother after she contracted the plague not long after finding him, to having a very bad thing happen to him after said father sold him to another soldier in their camp, and because he took the time during a battle to kill his rapist in retaliation, he wasn't able to save his father from losing a leg during the fight, making the man become far more cruel and sadistic towards Guts. Yeah, Guts was literally raped as a child, and it isn't anywhere near the worst thing to happen to him, which fucking says something. The guy is a violent, vicious lunatic that kills ungodly amounts of people. He's not above torture. He's cruel towards children, and all around just seems like an evil prick. But that's where the context of his past comes in. It shows you exactly why he's acting like this in the beginning. He's cruel and mean towards everyone around him because he can't get close to anyone. If he developed relationships with others, he'll be forced to watch them die agonizing deaths. Now, this might sound like a complete nihilistic mess of a story, and I admit that the atmosphere is pretty heavy in the beginning. There's not a lot of hope going around, but that's why characters like Puck exist in the first place, who exists as sort of a comedic relief character that's willing to butt heads with Guts and act as sort of the angel on his shoulder. But Puck wasn't there to help the guy out during Golden Age. Nobody was.
But at least now it can't get much worse.
But it did get worse.
Guts' childhood is beyond tragic, and it completely explains why he has trust issues the way he does, and that makes his time with the Band of the Hawk very heartfelt and engaging. The man finally leaves his shell and allows himself to be vulnerable around others. His romance with Casca, the only female soldier in the army, is very nice to see develop. Sure, it starts off as the typical tsundere, she hates every fiber of his being and he's just the same shit, but events cause the two to bond and they become willing to develop intimacy with each other. There's time taken to flesh them out as characters and see the two connect. The reason I'm so picky about the adaptations, because when done right, Berserk is something beyond special. Guts, in my opinion, is one of the greatest characters, period. He's so human with all of his struggles, and even though on paper he's some overpowered wrecking machine capable of killing hundreds of men, the guy is very vulnerable. His conflicts, for the most part, don't revolve around his skills. He's not training to be a master. His conflicts revolve around who he is inside. Is he good? Evil? Does he have a purpose in life? life, or is he just a tool that will eventually be discarded? Can he protect the ones close to him? Should he even have people to care about? How far can he go for revenge, and how long before it saps away what humanity he has left? It's why everyone loves Golden Age so much, because it's a story about a closed-off, traumatized kid finding others that care about him. The guy needs the Band of the Hawk. He needs a place to heal, and finally belong as a family. He needs Casca, Griffith, Pippin, Rickard, Judo, all of these characters he's grown to really care about. But then it's all taken away again.
Pile them up.
Yeah, the Eclipse is rough, enough said. Guts earns the right to be an edgelord, because he's survived things that would turn anyone into the exact same thing, and the trauma from the Eclipse pushes him past the brink of insanity. He lost everyone he cares about again. The woman he loves is a complete madwoman that can't even talk. For the rest of his life, he will be hunted by demons, and will spend eternity in hell once he finally dies. And that's not even talking about, his kid. Yeah. Life screwed Guts over way too many times to count, and the Eclipse is simply the cherry on top of this sundae. The dude is beyond antisocial now. He's homicidal, and he does atrocious things in the name of revenge. He's not just some warrior out to bring justice to dirtbags. Guts is a wild animal that wants to rip and tear anything that gets in his way, and only recently, after forming a new party and going on his quest to heal Casca from what the Eclipse did to her mind, is he finally starting to calm down again. In fact, Guts goes from savage and hateful to just tired. All the rage is still there, and he's very much capable of terrible wrath, but his demeanor is worn down. He's exhausted, but still going forward because he refuses to lose any more people. The revenge story turns into a redemption story, and one hell of a redemption story at that. The Guts at the beginning of Golden Age, in Black Swordsman, and the recent Fantasia arc, all feel like three completely different men. Guts changes, and he changes dramatically as the story goes on. I sincerely cannot recommend Berserk highly enough. Honestly, I could probably spend hours just gushing about what I love about this series, but